Part 2 of the rant. Time to go through the viewer feedback. Of course, Glenn at Hawkesbury, so we'll have to wait till Friday.
Two-man show again.
We'll have to wait till Friday to drill him about the poker. I should mention from the outset that we have Mark Sheen coming on next Monday, so he's number 2 of our special guests. We've had Stewie, Mark Sheen. I might try and line Snowy up after that, but
I'm just so excited.
Yeah, well, look, I'm very excited to have Mark Sheen on because
I mean, people might have noticed, like when he was doing with TVN, not only is the best race caller in the country by a country mile, but when he actually did get the odd gig on the, what was that review show?
Yeah,
the
it
preview
was
show.
Racing Review.
But he also went on the Thursday night show on TVN to have a look at Saturday's races. Get On. He went on Get On, and he was the best on there by a country mile. They used to give him some lip, but he just owned them. Like, he was so much smarter than anybody else on that program. So I can't wait.
Yeah, he's a guest that I'm as much anticipated as far as I'm concerned. So next Monday's rant, Mark Sheen, he's here. Right. Look, the promotion that I did for Ratings to Win a few weeks ago, I invited viewers to email in their queries, and I think one of the most interesting ones was Polo Sebastiani said he wanted a comparison of Snowden with Darley and O'Shea. Now this is with Godolphin, Darley as it was. How do they compare? And before the switch, Snowden was losing 13% on turnover. O'Shea was losing 12% on turnover. That was O'Shea training privately. Subsequently, O'Shea, since he's made the switch to Godolphin, is losing nearly 16% on turnover, and Snowden, going out on his own, is only losing 7% on turnover. So there's a couple of ways to look at it. It's hard work training that stable for a profit anyway, about betting profit.
Yeah, well, I don't know. It depends on whether you're getting JMax information or not, I suppose. But
yes, indeed. But anyway, so O'Shea was losing before the switch, and he's losing more. Snowden was losing fairly heavily when he was training the Darley, now Godolphin runners, and he's improved his situation markedly since he's getting his own horses.
I'm just sort of saying about that. Everybody knows Snowden's a freak.
Yeah.
Like, he's just the best.
Great trainer.
Yeah. And O'Shea is good.
Yeah.
Well,
there's a difference.
That's the difference, yeah.
And that's a big difference.
Yeah.
For Snowden to be losing 7% on turnover, and he's so exposed. I mean, he's got a huge following.
That's done off SP or Best Toad as well. And you know a lot of his horses are solid firmers, and if you got involved earlier, you would actually be in profit.
Harry Tapp wanted to know about third up into a Metro Saturday meeting off a provincial win in the last 2 starts. Those horses lost 7% as winners, and they lost 16% as place getters. So I don't think there's a lot there. I guess losing 7% on turnover is reasonable.
I'd want to section that off a little bit because, there's some provincial meetings that are just incredibly weak.
Well, the other thing is that Canberra is officially designated provincial, and each of the jurisdictions has their own set of provincial tracks.
Well, see, I'm saying the Saturday provincial compared to the Thursday provincial as well. I'd suggest Thursday provincial would be slightly better than Saturday provincial. So you'd need to interrogate that more closely to get a proper idea. I think.
Well, I think there's perhaps something in there. The fact that they're only losing 7% at SP is reasonable, and if you're any good at weeding out those last start winners, they're third up. They're last up provincial winners, but they're third up into a Metro Saturday race. Finally, Tonesman wanted the best jockey trainer combo for each state over the last 3 months. We didn't actually get the combos. We got to look at some jockeys and some trainers. Craig Williams is a particularly notable standout performer as far as the jockeys are concerned. The leaderboard actually reads Emily Finnegan, Jordan Childs, Andrew Mallion. And as far as the trainers are concerned, the Gaybots are on top there with Not the highest profit on turnover, but the greatest profit.
Oh, just so obvious that, wasn't it? Like, just took them a little while to get in the swing of things as far as the partnership was concerned, and then, wow, gangbusters.
Yeah, they've been going great since then. Phil wrote in, he said, hi guys, Les Gordo as he wasn't there, didn't hear a plane, train, dog or a whippersnipper in your broadcast today. That's last Monday when you were coming back from Canberra. I'm Phil, that is the proud owner of Perfect Rhyme, that ran third at Randwick the day he came up and introduced himself to me. And then she won subsequently at Hawkesbury two weeks ago.
Thank you very much, Perfect Rhyme. It was a great result, and the market didn't find either, so I'm sure that Phil had a very good result, because the SP was quite good there, wasn't it?
It was. He said 2 hours of form study convinced me that if she handled the heavy, she was a moral. Contacted a connection at Godolphin who said that Poet's Voice, who's the sire of Perfect Rhyme, handled it, and the Danehill mare Dagmar would help. What did you think of the runners? We're going to line up the Kembla Grange Classic, Keith Nolan Classic on Friday. And she ran fourth. She got beaten 5 lengths, but definitely she's overachieving.
Oh, definitely. Well, do you call it overachieving, or it's a lightly raced individual? Overachieving as far as SP,
yeah,
definitely. Overachieving as far as ability, no.
Yeah, she's a beauty, isn't she? P.S. Do you know what became of Rory Hutchings? No.
It's too heavy?
Danny Jackson will know. Come on, Danny. As soon as you watch the show, put it up on Twitter. What has become of Rory Hutchings? Dicko, he very kindly said as Gordo started hitting the gym, that was based on a photo that was taken pre-midweek preview.
Michelle told me she was about to take the snap, so I did a few push-ups and sit-ups just to pump up for the photo.
Dean.
Of course not.
And yes, on the subject of Dicko will be mounting yard mailing from Flemington this Saturday. Glenn will be back from Rosehill.
On the topic of that, two of the greatest starting tipping services I've ever seen.
I know, he's nailed it. Weeks 1 and 2 have been famous and fabulous from Dicko's Melbourne mounting yard mail. I'll put up the results for last Saturday on
I'm sort of really liking the way he does it too. Like he's really going off his eye in the yard as well. There's a few sort of outside the market there that even though some of them haven't been winning, they've been running above SP. So yeah, he's going really well.
Yeah, look, he tipped a roughie on Saturday, a missed opportunity. There was 100 to 1, and she went back, but I think she wound up 5th, which is certainly a he's nailed that one in the sense that she's outperformed her SP. John writes in and says, when doing sorry, I missed Dean. Dean, who's a good friend of the show, he said, he wrote on Facebook, I miss hearing, don't cut that out! Laugh out loud. So that I might remind Glenn of that one. John said, when doing the form, I noticed in New South Wales we have class races, i.e. classes 1, 2 and 3, and benchmark races. Is there a standard correlation you can use to compare races? If the current race is a benchmark 90, is that equal to a class 6? And is a class 6 at Newcastle equal to a benchmark 80 at Rosehill? Thanks, love the show. Well, I don't think it's a big issue, but if you really want a benchmark equivalent of that class race, just find the horse on 59, the male horse on 59, look up its benchmark, and that is the benchmark for the race.
Me personally, I completely ignore all those things. I'm only interested in what you've done, what opinion I have of the horses around you and what you've done.
Yeah, so you're using your eye to sort out, line up the horses, but people do actually like to use...
Oh, there's all different ways to do it.
Yeah, but
it's irrelevant.
I remember being tempted to look for some other yardstick, and eventually I just realised that you really did have to sort them out using your own skill.
Yeah, I mean, it can be a really strong maiden, so...
and you've got to intuit that yourself. You've got to interrogate the race and put your opinion on the line. Ultimately, that's, we like to use various props, I suppose, you could say, like in terms of doing the form, but the bit at the end is your own personal opinion. Graham writes in, guys, enjoy the shows. Thought I'd pass on my experience from the track on Saturday. Decided to have a race-to-race double and went to the auto tab machines. Not being a regular user of these machines, I asked the tab rep who was standing at the machines, can I put a race-to-race double on through one of these machines? His response left me dumbfounded, which was, what's a double? I left by saying, if you don't know, you can't help me, and went to one of the tote windows. I can only assume they employ people who know absolutely nothing about the products the tab offer. What other business could survive with that level of employee knowledge of the business products? I would think none. Well, that's an outstanding example of what's going on with the tab, where they really...
It's incorporated in all big business these days, and that they pretend to offer you this fantastic service because they can say, oh look, we had 6 people out there at the racetrack helping people out. Well, you know what? That sounds all right, but if the people don't know what they're talking about, it hardly helps. But they can always quote that figure, see?
Yeah.
And I've seen them wandering around there in their fancy little green jackets, you know?
Yeah, it seems all about image, doesn't it? Mm. Darren wrote in and said, for the Racing Rant show, want to point out a massive shit go for the punter. Coral Race 7, number 1, Ashdam. Led from jump to post, short price favourite with lots of smart money on it. After the race, the horse was disqualified because the jockey weighed in light. Let's be serious, punters outlaid their cash based on form, and stewards were negligent in what they did, but guess what? The poor punter loses the money. Shouldn't bookies have a moral obligation to refund long-term customers for that result as a show of good faith? Once again, the punters who pay for the industry get rooted up the Khyber Pass. Now, this is one of those vexing things that happens at least once a year, where a horse weighs in light, gets automatically disqualified, and everyone who's on that horse had no opportunity to win.
Cost me $20,000 one night on English racing, didn't it, Mark? So yeah, no, I'm not a big fan of it, but I suppose, you know, what are you going to do?
Well, the other alternative is for the horse to be declared a non-runner. So you scratch the horse. You say punters couldn't win on this horse, so therefore they shouldn't be able to lose. They could never. Once this horse hasn't carried the allocated weight, it's not a potential winner of the race.
Makes perfect sense.
But I suppose you could then extend it to horse loses the rider after the start. So the horse.
No, that's fine, because those things happen. But it's you know what I mean, like a jockey falling on shoulder. I can take that as far as, you know, possible sort of crazy events happening. But to the whole time to never have the opportunity to win. That horse still had the opportunity to win, except the jockey fell off. Well, if you don't have the weight, you never had the opportunity to win.
And I think the rule was initially based on the fact that skullduggery, if not found out, if you got found out, they didn't want to give them their money back.
Well, see, let's take the guy who's backed the one that actually ends up being the winner, the horse that came second, and he took $5 and the even money shot weighs in light. Well, he's taking a massive reduction in price too, isn't he? But I suppose that's more fair, isn't it?
Look, I think that it's something that needs to be looked at again. Like, it has been revisited several times, but
maybe it started off because it was, you know, they had so much trouble with adjusting things. But it's so easy these days with computers, isn't it? And the ones that should get fined are not the jockey in the stable; it's the goddamn stewards. Can you find them?
Well, look, I suppose. Well, the situation is that the trainer goes and gets the saddle with the correct amount of lead in the saddle, and the jockey must weigh out, give the trainer the saddle.
Oh, so there's too many hands touching it in order to find who's responsible.
Jockey weighs out, yeah, and then the connections of the horse to give him responsibility for the saddle. They can go and put the saddle on the horse. Something can happen in the meantime. It's not very foolproof. After we reported the Jelko Kino story from last week, a very fine fan of the show did write in and said that Jelko actually lost on that Kino Collect.
Yeah.
Which I suppose, you know, is always a possibility because he's playing the.
Oh, there's lots of things that can happen in that scenario. What happens if accidentally somebody else actually had the winning numbers as well and you had to split the pot?
Yeah, that's true.
There is risk involved, but you know, I'm sure they would have done the numbers well and realised the probability of that event occurring was solid. I mean, I'd suggest one more thing: if you were going to do that and you found a value situation as far as that sort of big investment is concerned, you'd want to do it at the time of the day where the least number of other tickets were taken as well.
So what do you mean by the time of day? What?
Well, I'm suggesting Keno's Australian orientated. I don't know whether it's 24/7 or whatever, but whatever hour of the day, like let's say like maybe 6:30 in the morning, there's not many people taking Keno tickets. Well, if you've realised there's a positive value situation, then you do it at the time of day where the least number of other tickets were.
How often's it drawn?
Taken. I don't play Keno, but I'm assuming like every 2 minutes or something like that.
Right, and yeah, so how can the pool be big enough every 2 minutes, or doesn't it matter?
The jackpots stay the same. So it's when the jackpot reaches a certain level to make it profitable.
Yes.
So that with the jackpot and also the other smaller pays that you collect, that it'll be profitable.
And they can't rig the jackpot so that they roll into busier times.
No. It's done game by game.
Right.
Yeah, and it just gradually increments after every game.
That's Keno. Nathan on Twitter, he said, I love the brackets concept you and Glenn spoke about on your show. I'm another young bloke who's had trouble framing markets. Gord, when you're looking at the form, do you bracket horses? Do you go, look, this is a prime? Well, you do actually. You go primaries and secondaries, don't you?
I do, but as far as pricing is concerned, I don't really have, you know, I'm not solid with that. For me, I'm just so interested in what I think are the top 3 selections in a particular race.
But how do you decide whether those 3 selections are at value prices or not? You know,
this is going to sound completely retarded, but I look at a horse, and I know it's not directly related as far as price is concerned, but I look at a horse and say, okay, without completely irregular events, how many times does this horse win the race? You know what I mean? It's funny when, I mean, that's what the price means.
Yeah.
But it's funny when you think about it that way, you seem to have a little bit more clarity. So I'll be like, well, this horse wins this race once every 4 times. Obviously, that means 3 to 1. But, you know, like, to think of it in that way, I think helps me.
Yeah. It's yet again an area where you've got to make the judgment yourself. But the fact is, you start off by categorising horses. And we spoke about last week about the fact that
a lot of my categories are.
Yeah, I know.
yeah.
Well, Glenn mentioned good chance, chance, some chance, place, rough, no, and none.
I'm saying in a 10-horse field, I'm probably giving none to 5 of the horses. I'm not even giving them 1 or 2%. I'm giving them 0% and framing the market around the chances.
Glenn Harvey, who's got a keen eye for everything and a keen ear by the sounds of it, he said last Wednesday, tweeted, Lizzie on Sky, this is an open race, that's why the market's so close. Hashtag abundance of insight, hashtag one for Women's Day. We mentioned the very, very heavy trek, you might have missed it, Gord. John Lavitt's, or Puma Ratings, email of a couple of weeks back mentioned a track in New Zealand where they were running 50 seconds for the last 600.
Oh, yeah. That was
you
great.
actually read the email.
Yeah.
Well, he tweeted last Thursday, the 100 to 1 winner of race 6 at Ashburton today was tailed off on the bog at Hokitika. Might be a huge form reversal meeting.
What was the track rating at Ashburton?
I don't know, but I'm thinking the weird thing was that the Hokitika, where they were running 50 seconds for the last 600, it was in the middle of summer. And finally, just to top and tail this show, Nathan Cripps on Saturday said, is Gordo leaving the course on top of the punter's shoulders? 2 from 2 best bets, spectroscope single bullet, hashtag might have Dallas covered.
Well, I think I've got slightly more hair as well. I'll have to say hello to Molesy out there, who had an all up with my 2 selections, and I met him in the incredibly social area of the smoking arena.
Did you encourage him to check out the flowers?
And more importantly than that, so I've met him after the big collect on those, and he goes, what do you think of Heavens Above? I said, it's an honest horse with a good chance at long odds or whatever, but he made me think about it as well, which helped me grab something a little out of it anyway. But he must have had the biggest day ever. And he told me
Is that Molesey?
He pointed Molesey, and I met Wayne out there as well. But Molesey, and he pointed over the road. He says, "I'm going over there," and I says, "What? Off to Hooters after the races, are you?" But I think he was going to get him and his missus a penthouse suite by the sound of it. So,
Right, yeah, what a day. So don't forget, it's Golden Slipper Day this Saturday. I mentioned a Mounting Yard mail from Flemington, and Glenn will be itching to get back into Mounting Yard mail from Rose Hill. Slipper Day, it'll be wet.
He's had 2 days off now.
What do you mean he's had 2 days?
Friday and Monday.
Yeah, he had a long weekend.
Again, yeah. And he got knocked out at 2 o'clock.
I know. It stinks, doesn't it? So this week, obviously Golden Slipper Day this Saturday. Hawkesbury's being run today as we speak. Wednesday is Gosford. It's the provincial championships. We'll have to see what the weather does to that meeting. And Friday is Newcastle Newmarket Day. So it's a provincial week leading up into the Slipper.
I had a quick look at Gosford. It looks quite juicy. What was it going on the track? Heavy or slow?
It'll be heavy. It'll be heavy because there'll be enough rain tomorrow. But
so as soon as you hear that, it's just like, well, I won't bother doing anything until Wednesday morning.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
That's the annoying thing. We're all praying to have a configuration that you can look at. But when there's events like that happening, you know that there's going to be multiple scratchings, and the configuration is not obvious until a very late stage. Don't forget to smash the thumb if you've watched us on YouTube, Facebook, wherever you watched us. Like us, because we're likeable. And if you haven't subscribed on the YouTube channel, if you subscribe, you'll get notified instantly that we do something on Racing Rant. So Gord and I will attempt to do a Gosford preview tomorrow.
As long as we do it on time.
Yeah. I've been dragging the chain, promise not to drag the chain tomorrow. And Glenn will be back for the Friday preview show previewing the Golden Slipper. Catch you then.
Beautiful.